Three, two, one, and we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on the fifth episode of the Door Unhinged podcast. Today I am joined by the fifth guest that I've managed to guilt trip into coming here, Mr. Jacob, Jacob, how do you
Jacob
pronounce this?
Janerka.
Janerka. Yes.
Janerka. Yeah.
Who's, who's
Most
coming,
people get
yeah,
trip up on it. It's pretty easy to.
exactly. And you have a very interesting avatar, sir. What is that from?
It's from my video game called Paradigm.
Yeah, your point and click game.
Yeah, point
It
and
would
click. He's squatting like a true slab.
I give your game some credit because there are so many video games that fall into archetypes. Like there's medieval fantasy, there's sci-fi. But I looked up some pictures of your point and click game, and I was like, I don't think I've seen anything quite like this.
Yeah, it's definitely like a weird dystopian sci-fi thing. I was like really obsessed with weird Soviet architecture and stuff in Eastern European countries. So combine that with some like sci-fi here and there. It's kind of like influenced a lot by like Gattaca and stuff like that.
So
If you've ever seen that.
logically, the next step in that kind of thought process is to make a Seinfeld game.
Yeah, it's only a skip and jump to straight into Seinfeld. It was the only show in Eastern Europe where I grew up. No, I didn't actually grow up in Eastern Europe, but it definitely was a huge influence on me.
Most definitely. Hmm. So you're trying to tell the world about something right now. What is it?
I'm just telling them that they need to live in the past like me. It's really all you need to do in life.
It,
But
it
we don't want to live in 2020 right now, especially.
well, it's a so Jacob here is pitching a Seinfeld game with a friend of his, and but what gave me hope about it is when I was looking on your website, there was one of the paragraphs was we don't plan to have it be some like cringy fan game that just recycles jokes and does all this like catering stuff. It's actually going to be have new stuff, new characters, and pay homage to it, and that made me a lot more excited for your game when I read it.
Yeah, totally. I think that that's what would be needed. Like if it was just a game rehashing every single reference, it would be kind of lame. It would be kind of similar to South Park in the way that they did it with Stick of Truth. Like Stick of Truth is like full of references, but it's
Hmm.
still a completely new story.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's easy to
we
buy
had some
into
like,
that.
yeah, yeah, totally. We had a bunch of criticisms actually for saying that because people were like, but look at your story, like it is like you are referencing the show, and I'm like, yeah, we can. The show still references itself, like when you watch it.
Right.
But I
This is
understand
yeah.
why someone would have a knee-jerk reaction to that, though.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm not. I almost want you to take the assets from this game and repurpose them into a beat 'em up, even if that makes no sense, because I am not a huge fan of point and click adventure games at all. I like Telltale's Walking Dead. If the sign,
Yeah.
but his thing is my overwhelming love for Seinfeld will overpower any skepticism I have for point and click. So I will still be giving it a try, most definitely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I know exactly what you mean. Like, the genre is not for everyone. Like, that's just one of the things. And I think these, if you haven't played any recent point and clicks, you should definitely give it a go because it does overcome a lot of the problems if you played some of the old LucasArts games or especially Sierra games. They're just like you need to walk through like almost no matter what, unless you have the nostalgia of a child, like when you spend days and days trying to figure out one puzzle.
Yeah, no, that was always just beating your head against a wall, just kind of mulling over all the possibilities in your head, and then it's like, do I want to look up a guide?
Yeah. But I think a beat 'em up still could work anyway. Like one of my favorite games is actually the Simpsons
Okay.
beat 'em up. I don't know if you ever played it. Like I spent so much money on that game actually. Like they had like a arcade near my house where I would just drop so much money playing it, and it was really good. But I'm sure, mate. I don't know about how the audience would feel about it though if it was a beat 'em up.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not the first thing you would think of when you're considering a beat 'em up, but it worked. So you can't really find anyone who has negative stuff to say about the Simpsons arcade games. Just everybody values it. Everybody
Yeah,
likes
it
it.
is strange, right? Like, I mean, a lot of people shit on like the Nintendo games though for it, like the weird NES Bart game and stuff like that. But the beat 'em up is actually like really quality and like the art is like incredible in it. So I think it's just people blown away by the quality.
You know what they should have done is if they made a Seinfeld game way back when, they should have had Capcom do it because Capcom was really good at just taking intellectual properties that you'd never figure would work and making good ass games. Like they had I think they made the Aladdin game. That was pretty good. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. People forget about that stuff. Like everyone shits on IP made games and stuff. It's like there are so many good examples of it, especially now. Like it's becoming more prevalent where these like IP games aren't just shitty shitty games. Other than like no, I don't want to call them shitty games for like mobile games. They're just for different audiences.
yeah, I don't see that as often now. I don't see the movie tie-in games. Do they still do those a lot?
I know, not necessarily. I don't think so. I think they bombed a lot and like, like the Shrek games and shit. Like, I don't think they made much money from those tie-in games as much. So, or I'm just like talking out of my ass. I have no idea. That's what I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, it's the movie industry is barely like has legs, and with and stuff. That's plus the tie-in games. I can't imagine it's all standing up still.
Yeah, yeah. That's why you should make a Seinfeld game, Hollywood, so you can
Well, the
save yourself.
well, the sheer audacity of a Seinfeld game, I think, has power. It's just crazy. It's a
That's
crazy
what
idea.
that's why we wanted to do it because it's so funny. Like even funny that like two guys from Australia are making this like pitch. And yeah, and just like like it just I don't know. Even like regardless what happens, it would just be so funny if we actually even got to do it. Um,
How much have you scratched the surface as far as like getting in contact? Has anyone from Netflix, like representative, even acknowledged it or stuff like that?
it depends. I probably can't talk about it too much at the moment,
Oh,
just in
okay.
case, just
All
in
right,
case.
gotcha.
But we're still like pursuing getting it in front of the people. Like
Right.
we're sure that the cast members saw it, but for one reason or another, like they're not allowed to talk about it or they don't want to talk about it.
Hmm.
Um, which is totally fine. Like I get it.
Yeah.
But like we still have some like I don't know if you saw my tweet, but I'll be happy with them just even shitting on it, just so I could get some validation from them.
Yeah, it's like someone acknowledge that this exists, please. They got to be better than Nintendo about shutting down. Netflix has to be better than Nintendo about shutting fan projects down because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
literally it's just love. That's all it is. That's like the entire thing. It's just a passion project that has been. It's there is no person who could comb through your website and say that these people don't absolutely love what they're doing. They absolutely love Seinfeld. There's
Thank you.
yeah, even if it's
I
bullshit.
think yeah, yeah. I think well that's the thing, like the argument is for us not to do it was that even if it is for love, they can argue that it's breaching their IP and it's basically leaves precedent for other people to do stuff with it.
Um,
That's why we never released a demo. So apparently, if it's a demo, it leaves precedence for someone to actually make a game and then be like, "You didn't prosecute these people." But that's the argument that most lawyers will say that like, don't ever do it because even if you're doing it just for fun, they can prosecute you.
yeah.
But I think most of those times it just ends up being a cease and desist.
Mm.
But it's like, yeah, totally wishy washy with that kind of stuff.
You talk to a lot of lawyers making this.
Uh, there is like some few lawyers online that are very vocal about not making fan projects. Uh, they're mostly referring to making fan projects of like Nintendo games or something like all those like Unreal Mario remakes and stuff or like Zelda games. They're basically like, don't do it. You risk being sued for lots of money, putting yourself in debt, when you can just make your own thing, which is like a good point
Mhm.
though. Like, especially if you're making something that's like a Zelda remake, like they're never gonna give you the rights to make a Zelda Zelda game. That's like way
Unless
more far fetched than what we're
unless
doing.
you're the Crypt of the Necro Dancer guy and you
Oh
got the
yeah,
rights.
yeah, exactly. Like there are those circumstances where like they get those brand deals and
Do you know how
make have
heartbreaking
like
that would be if you re-released a version of your trailer that changed all the assets to just barely not be Seinfeld? That would be so depressing. You call it like Simpfeld, and everybody's just kind of a little bit off.
Yeah. Yeah, we were like a lot of people were telling us to just like rename it and just
Oh,
kind of make it a
yeah.
parody and stuff. But it's like nah.
No, yeah,
There's
it's
I don't know if you've seen Sinfield on Dreams. Have you seen that?
no, I haven't. What is it?
You should check it out.
Oh, is
It's
that
really
the
funny
horror game?
actually. Yeah, the horror Seinfeld game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still need to see it. I remember they had a recreation of Seinfeld's apartment in the middle of Manhattan for a little bit
Yeah, yeah.
when Hulu first bought it, but I
Yeah.
never got to go down there and see it.
Actually
I
a
couldn't be
George
there.
bar here. There's actually a George bar in Melbourne where I live.
A George
Actually used to
Costanza themed
work
bar.
at George Costanza theme bar. And it's actually where I used to work. It used to be like 10 buildings away, but I never went to it. I feel bad. Well, it's a George Costanza themed bar, but it's not really George Costanza themed, if you know what I mean. It's got like
Oh yeah, just
drinks
for
named after him, and then it's got like a few pictures of him, but it's not like,
yeah,
it would have been cool if they recreated like a set or something. But it's
yeah.
it's Jason Alexander acknowledged that. So shout out Jason Alexander. If you can acknowledge the bar, you can acknowledge the game.
And yeah, you had the Breaking Bad themed bar where they just like it was Breaking Bad in all but name, so it was less paperwork on their end, but they also people knew what they were doing, obviously.
What did they call it?
Uh, I don't remember. It's something with two B's though for sure,
It
because
sounds
that'd
pretty
be
cool though.
yeah. I'd be scared to drink there maybe, but
There's like a Giga bar in Amsterdam. I think it's just somewhere in the Netherlands. You know who the Giga is? HR Giga.
yeah,
Yeah, here there's like a crazy bar, which well, there's two bars apparently, but I think the one in the Netherlands is like the OG one, and it's just like this scary ass like alien looking bar with stuff actually made by Giga, I think.
yeah. That guy has his own. Again, it comes back to not falling into an archetype where you think of sci-fi, you think of a very predetermined look, you think of medieval, you think of a very predetermined look, but he had his own architecture and creature designs that were not like anything else, which is kind of crazy. I wish more artists were able to do that. But yeah, no, it really is timeless if you because sometimes I'll just have it playing while I'm in the kitchen and I end up getting sucked into the whole episode. It has because Larry David and Jerry, I think they were both very paranoid about about it being cringy and bad. You have the Fresh Prince of Bel Air and all these other sitcoms that will slow down and have these more serious episodes, and it's just terrible. It's gross. They're not funny. They're not good. And the closest you ever got to a serious moment in Seinfeld was the plane going down in the last episode, and Jerry and Elaine saying that they like each other. But the last episode, also the last episode's bad, so I don't like to count that either.
Yeah, I was actually discussing that last night with Ivan because he binged the whole series at the moment,
Oh,
and
good.
I was watching a lot of them recently as well. And he just watched the final episode, and he was telling me that he reckons it's actually not as bad as everyone. I wouldn't be
Oh,
mad
really?
if I quote him on that, but
Well,
because I
we've
never
had
watched
time to
it.
we've had time to process it.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't actually watched it since it like not came out, but like when I was much younger, I watched it, and I just never watched it again because it's like when you rewatch Seinfeld, you're like watching like random episodes and avoiding the final episode.
Yeah,
But apparently, it's pretty good. Not as bad as everyone thinks it is, but
it's
uh, he spotted a Magic the Gathering box in his apartment, which is pretty interesting. I wonder if Jerry actually likes Magic the Gathering
wait.
or it just
There's a Magic the Gathering in Jerry's apartment.
yeah, yeah. So in the last episode, if you look on his computer desk, there's a Magic the Gathering box on his desk.
I'm gonna look that up.
I don't know if anyone's like maybe because people don't watch the final episode, no one's like paid attention to the set dressing.
Magic the Gathering. What the fuck? That's crazy.
But there's other weird shit that's been on his desk, so it could just be the set designer. Like the Windows 95 was on his desk like randomly, apparently in one of the episodes. My friend, Ivan was saying that also on the VHS tapes in the set, they were actually referencing old episodes and stuff.
Oh,
So, like all the VHS tapes because now you can see them in like high res, like relatively high res.
Hmm.
He writes about he records his own sets, like it's implied he's recording his like stand-up sets so you can watch them. Um, yeah, that's the fun trivia that Ivan also. Yeah.
I think it would be really cool if what if your game opened up and they had all just gotten out of prison, and to be consistent with the show, George was really smart because he couldn't have sex while he was in prison. Or if he isn't really
Yeah.
smart, people are concerned. But imagine having that cotton. Like I know that there's not a lot of continuity in Seinfeld. That's kind of silly, but it would be neat if when your game opened up, they're all adjusting to life out there again or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It could be like a fun intro to like just the game, or like an opening intro of them just like leaving prison and stuff,
Right.
and then just like like not even reference that they're in prison, only like sometimes them having like little flashbacks, flashback and stuff. We there was actually one the first episode that we were writing where it was a bit more surreal. We were writing an episode where they're in the diner and a robbery starts. So a guy comes in with his like balaclava, and he decides to rob the place. And then he leaves the diner, and George is like just and he leaves the diner and pulls off his balaclava and leaves it on the floor. And then George comes over and he's like really cold because he forgot his jacket, and he sees the balaclava and decides to put it on. And then when he puts it on, the police come and they arrest him because he's put on the balaclava.
That's perfect.
So the whole episode, the whole game is like you trying to break George out of the prison. So
That's
it's like a
great.
breakout thing. But it's funny, but we decided not to use that because it was like really surreal, like more surreal than Seinfeld would probably go. Like at the end of the end of the seasons, they did push it a little bit, but we felt that like a breaking George out of the prison would be like too too out there for the show would normally do.
And also, he probably wouldn't care enough to do it.
No, no,
Yeah.
like unless there was like a selfish, like you could write a selfish reason. Like I mean, we write in the publicist in the email episode that the selfish reason is because they want to get tickets to see the show. But
Yeah, there needs to be a
yeah,
selfish reason.
yeah,
Sadly enough, there needs to be selfish reason. I like that they go to see Rochelle too because it's the fine line between paying homage but not recycling too much. People really do have the Seinfeld episode format down to a T. You have the modern Seinfeld Twitter account that always puts out those new ones. I had a friend of
yeah.
mine. I had a friend of mine. They posted on Twitter a whole Seinfeld episode where where Kramer's making his own hand sanitizer in a tub. Elaine's happy that her boyfriend has it because she couldn't think of a way to break up with him. Jerry's like overly cautious. It was just perfect, the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think I didn't read any of them, but I saw there was like a lot of ones popping up. It's like the 9/11 one, which is like really good.
Yeah,
Um, it's one of those like shows that are so popular. Like, yeah, people like really break it down more than you. It's like almost like if you're like in English class and you have to break down like a specific book. It's like one of those books like that people when they write TV they break down Seinfeld and because it's so popular, like writers want to get
except
get jobs, so they just make spec scripts of it because
yeah,
the internet eats it up.
except Seinfeld is finer literature than any English book worth dissecting.
Yeah, it's definitely a much better commentary on life than probably most of the Shakespeare plays.
It's not even actually filmed in New York, though, right?
Yeah, I only just realized that recently. I don't know why I thought it would was filmed in New York. It's all like filmed in LA, and they had like a few episodes. They had a lot, but they also filmed one of the episodes I think in New York on a real street. And they blocked it off, but I can't remember which one it was.
Kind of a random tangent, but having lobster mixed with scrambled eggs would probably actually be really good. Like when George made it for that one girl that didn't want to eat lobster, and he like mixed it in to spite her. Do you remember that episode?
I don't actually remember, but that sounds amazing.
You remember when
It,
George is dating the girl? She's like topless while they're all at that beach house, and everybody's talking about this significant
yeah,
shrinkage.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, yeah, I remember that episode now.
That'd actually be good as
I don't
fuck.
remember the lobster part. Yeah, it would be good.
Mm.
Because I know there's like certain parts in the US which are like, it's much easier to get lobster. Like lobster here, it's like so fucking expensive. But I mean, it's expensive
Oh, is it?
everywhere.
Yeah, it's
But
expensive everywhere.
I know there's like, I guess in Louisiana or something, like they have like lobster rolls and stuff, which are not super expensive. I
They
don't know.
have, there is a restaurant that serves some sort of hamburger called the Double Drought, and what it is the buns are fried lobster tails, and then there's a burger in the middle.
Oh, fuck me.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up. I would leave a note for my
we
family before I eat that. Oh my
we
god.
have in Australia at KFC we had the I don't know what it was called. It was only an Australian thing, and I remember like some Americans got people wanting to like get it over there, but there's basically two fried chicken zingers as the bread, and then inside was more chicken and like bacon and cheese.
Ooh,
So instead of bread, it was just like two fried bits of deep fried bits of chicken.
that sounds fine. That sounds fine by me. My gout will come out if I
Uh,
do that.
the rich man's disease.
Man, everybody knows what it's called. I just woke up one day and my foot just wouldn't fucking. And I was like, God damn, I need to make some changes.
Did you actually have gout?
Maybe.
Congratulations. I know two other people that had gout. Very rare affliction in this modern world, but congratulations. But I do recommend you eat some more fruit.
Yeah, and I'm not 50 years old. This makes no goddamn sense. This is a very scary picture for my adult life. I
It's
would
so unfortunate that it's become like it maybe even back in the day, gout was like a thing of like
status.
uh status. Like if you didn't have a black foot, you were just like trash.
If you didn't have a black foot, you were a loser.
What do you mean you can only eat meat and wine for days at a time?
I have to imagine that I would be better at adult life than the cast of Seinfeld, at least. One thing I never understood was, so you have them dating these beautiful women, and it never really shows you how they meet. The episode just kind of opens and they're dating, and you just assume they were good enough. But I can't picture Jerry or George approaching any woman and managing to make things stick. The episode just says they're dating. This is going to be part of the plot. We're not going to show you the in between. I'm like, really? It's just hard to digest.
Well, there's a couple episodes. I actually watched the episode with the deaf woman, and that's like actually like a bit of they did introduce like he picked her up at the
Okay.
tennis game.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess, but they, obviously they do like miss out on all the other some of the stuff. But yeah, totally. Like it's
Okay.
just when like George is probably the most non-believable character in terms of the women that he picks up, like in the show. Like, where did he manage to like talk to them? Because he's like so nervous all the time. Like, I don't think they've ever shown George approach a woman other than him being like turned down. So that's probably the biggest fantasy of the show is like George picking up these beautiful women.
Your elbows are too pointy. That's so great.
I
No,
actually stole that from just like an old meme from like 2000. How long have you been doing this podcast for?
couple of months. I started reaching out to random people, and some of them would say yes to my surprise. And all of my in real life friends are busy doing stuff, and I haven't seen a lot of my family for a while, so I had no one to talk to about anything. So I was just like, what if I just point a microphone at myself and start talking, and I reach out to these people that I'm mildly interested in? What happens? And so far, and this is my fifth episode so far.
Yeah, that's great. Did you start it before the isolation started stuff, or did you do it after?
A tiny bit before the isolation started. It was when people were talking. It was like early February, I think. So people were talking about it, but
Yeah,
like I had a guest that said that he was going to be at comic conventions in March, and I was like, nope, no, you aren't.
that's not gonna happen. Definitely not gonna happen.
People are
Um,
people are waiting for someone to just like turn a light switch on, but that's not going to be what happens. What's going to happen is you're going to have these small incremental freedoms given back, and we're gonna adjust to that. And
Yeah, pretty much.
and I don't.
Hopefully on your side it ends up working well. Like
Oh
all I
yeah.
see is on the news really negative
Oh yeah.
negative
Oh yeah.
stuff.
How is Australia as far as
Really good apparently.
really? I should
Well,
stop.
as good as it can be.
I,
Not as
I
good as New Zealand,
wow.
but
I should stop saying this because I have to edit it out every time because of the algorithm.
oh really?
Yeah, yeah.
That should
YouTube doesn't like when you say the beer name sickness. So I I'll probably go back and just like censor each time that word comes up.
shit that the algorithms actually can figure it out the audio.
The machine
Thought it would
learning
have been just
the machine learning on
yeah.
YouTube is a ham-fisted, like really diligent, unpredictable beast. You have entire channels or entire videos that get shut down, and they're like, "What did I say? I could have sworn I said all of the right things."
Yeah, that's frustrating as hell, man. Like I know that they were having issues with like swearing for a while and all that stupid shit. It sucks because like their experimentations can like really mess over creators who like rely on it for their income.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Is this is someone's livelihood. I'm fortunate enough to have I'm fortunate enough to have other forms of income other than just YouTube. But for someone who it's their lifeblood, it's all they've been doing, to have it be so unpredictable and change like the weather.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. Like I give it to YouTubers who like have to follow the trends and stuff. Like it must be so difficult unless you're like a real popular YouTuber who can just do whatever they want and like that's their brand. Like iDubbbz for example.
Hmm.
Like I find his brand really fascinating because like he can just like make a video about squirrels or like or just about any ridiculous thing and still be getting like 3 million views or something like that. While everyone else is like trying to jump on the like recent trend or like talking about some drama or something like that.
And he's just like, "Hey,
Um,
squirrels, fun."
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I think
And
a difficult world for any creators that need to make content like every week.
people have been getting their asses in a twirl over iDubbbz because of a what was it? His girlfriend or something has
Oh
a
yeah, calling him a simp and stuff.
yeah. And here's the thing: he totally is. No, I'm kidding. But the thing is, the thing is, the rule is set by the couple. I would never do that. Sure, but to have a mass conglomerate of people come down on you over how you and your girlfriend have agreed to have a relationship.
Yeah, it's silly and it's so funny. Like he can handle it really well and he
How did he
doesn't
handle
care
it?
and it's and he's like owning it. Like his recent thumbnail was like of him, the image that people have been using of him as the simp and like so he's taken it as well as like anyone could. Like if he was a YouTuber that was like really self-conscious about that and like trying to hide it and not talk about it, like it probably would have gone for weeks, you know.
Mm.
Or like if he made some video like being really like aggressive towards people, there would probably be like 100 more videos of him
Yeah,
like being about it. So
I remember what Tyrion said to Jon Snow. He said, "Never forget what you are, a bastard. The rest of the world will not wear it like armor, and it can never be used against you." That's what he's doing.
yeah, he's definitely taking wisdom from Game of Thrones. They're also a great piece of literature of our time.
Yeah, taking literature from Game of Thrones to defend his girlfriend. Either way,
Just like a really serious video. Like he just like actually plays the Game of Thrones episode, like turns at the camera and explains it from the great poet George R. R. Martin.
how do you feel about Telltale? Because there's a Game of Thrones Telltale game. How do you feel about how Telltale does point and click as a point and click cursor yourself? Do you think they do it justice, or is it oversimplified just to have the movie part of it come out?
No, I love it. I love Telltale stuff. I did not like the Game of Thrones Telltale
I
stuff
still
though.
I still need to finish it. I've heard mixed things. I was on the fourth episode. I still need to finish it.
Yeah, I think I played 3 episodes. I really liked Wolf Among Us. That was like really good. And I didn't play Walking Dead, but I know a lot of people like
Oh
that. I
yeah.
just never liked The Walking Dead in general,
Hmm.
as just a personal thing. Like zombies don't interest me that huge amount.
Well,
Uh,
if you're a big enough Telltale fan, I think you might like it because I know season one was what put them on the map. But there are some really interesting things that happen in The Walking Dead season one that they made. I think there's 4 seasons now. But
Yeah,
yeah, I played the
yeah,
first 4 episodes of Wolf Among Us, even though I never read the fable or whatever it was based on, and
yeah,
it was decently entertaining for sure.
yeah, yeah. They were making games for like 5 years before, because they had even Jurassic Park game that no one talks about, which apparently
Oh
is
yeah, yeah, it's
really
like
bad.
yeah, I heard
But
that.
yeah, no, I don't think that's simplified or anything like that. Especially I'm making a simplified adventure game now, so
So
I'd be a
I'm not
hypocrite
gonna
if
get stuck playing your game. Should I ever get the chance to
I.
play it?
No, like yeah, I'm making a new game called this is my plug, the Dungeon Experience,
Oh yeah, that
in
one.
which it's basically Firewatch D&D but with jokes. So basically, you come across a low-level RPG monster who's a mud crab who has dreams of becoming an entrepreneur. So you enter his startup, the Dungeon Experience. So it's basically like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of theme park that you're being run through this
Dungeon,
like incompetent kind of dungeon master kind of character who's
Dungeons
a
and
low level.
Dragons, Dungeons and Dragons meets Shark Tank.
Yeah, yeah, that could be another pitch for it as well. Um, so yeah, you're basically going for this like it's like have you played Firewatch or anything like that? Or
No,
like Life is Strange or anything like that?
I've played indie games that are like an experience. I love Arise, A Simple Story. I love Journey,
Mm.
Inside, and Limbo.
Yeah,
I haven't played
Insights.
Firewatch. I know it has something to do with you being like a fireman that's isolated, and the story comes to you through the walkie-talkie or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's kind of like that. Like the dungeon master's got you got like a little headset and the dungeon master's like talking to you and stuff while you're going through the dungeon.
That's awesome.
But
D&D is something I've struggled to get into. I think as great as my friends are, I think they might gatekeep a little bit when it comes to D&D, but every time I try and come up with campaign ideas, it's just kind of like, hey, you can't do that. Hey, you can't do that. I hate when anything gets treated too sacredly like that. But
yeah.
every time I get into a battle in D&D, it's just like there's so many rules that I can't get excited about customizing my character. You like D&D though?
Yeah, I played like maybe like 2 campaigns. Like one of the inspirations from the actual game was I was playing a campaign and uh I was the one who was the guy who was fucking around too much.
Oh yeah,
Like
I've been
playing all
there.
the characters and stuff. I imagine some of the more serious players would be like really annoyed with me.
I remember.
Um
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was one campaign my friend was doing where we were stuck in this forbidden city. This guy was dying from some sickness, and the only cure was this some rare purple flower. And so I rummaged through like the house, and I open up this cabinet, and this little purple petal sprouts out, and they're like, "Hey, Brimstone, what do you see?" And I'm like, "There's nothing in here." And the guy died. The guy totally died, and he had to rewrite the whole story. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "If the characters get along perfectly, it's not going to be nearly as interesting." So
yeah. Yeah, I mean that's like you play to your character, like you don't necessarily play to the actual to what the story is or like what would be beneficial. Like you're playing basically a narrative. Like if you're playing a dickhead character, you got to play a dickhead character.
yeah,
It's up to the DM if they want to like just magic change it if they really want to railroad it a little bit.
yeah. I have the guy from. You ever watch Waz 20? He's like a D&D
uh
dude.
no.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have him on next week. But yeah, what I always found fascinating about D&D is it's it's make believe with rules, and there is so much more freedom you have when you don't have to constantly make assets and audio for everything. You can just say that your character does something, and everybody accepts
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think like I only got into D&D, the idea of D&D into much later life and the idea of this like I'm so mad that no one played it when I was a kid. Like I would have eaten it up. Like
Hmm.
it's just incredible that you can yeah, create these worlds and do it's like the obviously the ultimate role-playing experience compared to video games. Like you can do yeah, literally anything you want. You don't have to spend you can make this epic campaign and spend nothing other than your time and yeah, which can also be expensive. But yeah, it's really yeah, it's really fascinating and I kind of fell in love with the idea of running through campaigns with people who are like really incompetent at it. And I just love that idea of like I don't know
Dude,
if you played Stanley Parable.
yeah, I
Uh,
did.
yeah, so it's like I love the idea of like the narrator in Stanley Parable messing with the player, but I like the idea of like what if it's like more real world, like the dungeon master rather than just like this entity who's like the narrator in Stanley Parable.
That could
Yeah,
be
like it,
that could be really cruel though, is when you're playing a Dungeons and Dragons game and the DM is boring as hell. That is a
oh yeah.
absolute slog. Oh my God.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. The dungeon master I had was like really good.
That's good.
But we stopped playing because he had a child. He's
Oh,
just
dude,
like
no, fuck that,
I
dude.
I'm having a kid, so I can't do this anymore.
Uh,
And we're like, fuck.
yeah. The thing, like, okay, that having a kid, that's fine, but man, not like even now, lining up four people to do a campaign is ass. I know someone who ran a campaign with eight people, not including himself, and I'm like, man, can you imagine that in itself is, awful enough. But imagine if each of them had kids. That'd be impossible. That's why if I run a campaign, I want it to just be three people. Then you could like each character has more opportunities to grow.
Yeah.
The less schedules to line up. It's just better. I think it's just better on both the convenience and the gameplay aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. We played with five people and it was so boring. Like I mean, well, it's like not boring, but when you have five people, you everyone has to take a turn. So you have like basically half an hour before you can do something, like because everyone is doing that, like role playing or whatever, or like especially combat. And we were all noobs, so like, but none of us really played it very often. So like, we had to keep asking for help, and
Mhm.
um, yeah, it was really fun. But we'd be playing at like 9 o'clock at night, and I'd be like, it's just like getting tired. Yeah, it's just like yeah, combat especially when yeah everyone has to take their turn. It's just like
And and
oh
and
man,
if you don't know how combat works, if you're like me and you don't know how it works and you just have a DM explaining everything you're supposed to do, it's even more boring because it's just an amalgamation of rules you have to follow instead of a fun tactical thing. And
yeah, people love it
yeah,
though. It's like a really
oh yeah. I'm trying to learn a system right
huge.
now called Dungeon Worlds, which is supposed to be an easier version that
Oh
is
yeah,
so
is it got like less dice and stuff? It's like just a
yeah, yeah,
six die.
you only do rolls for the players. You don't have to do rolls for the enemies. It's like every single roll in the game is if you get 1 to 5, you fail. If it's 6 to 10, then you win, but it's compromised. And then if it's 11 or 12, then you just succeed. So
Yeah.
if I was trying to steal coin from your pocket or whatever, and I got a compromised roll, I would like successfully steal it, but maybe I trip and sprain my ankle or something.
Mm.
And you battles that would take minutes on end in Dungeons and Dragons 5e go by much quicker in Dungeon World. So that means people have less time to check their phones and think about how bad your campaign is. And I want people I want people to just I don't want people to dread it, you know?
I want everyone to roll for boredom, please. If you could do that right now. I rolled a six. Yeah, I'm bored out of my fucking mind, man. That appeals to me, and that's kind of actually in my new game. We use dice rolling for certain aspects of the game. Like there's a part of the game where the crab is like really up. The dungeon master is really upset at you. You have to roll whether or not like he forgives you or not.
Is there a lot of
Um,
footage of this game that you're working on right now? Or
Not
looked up
yet,
right now?
unfortunately.
Oh, it's
You
not.
can look it up on the Steam page. There's just like screenshots and stuff.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's like it's still in progress. We're working on the trailer right now. Um, but yeah,
Usually
like
and usually when you make a trailer, you like out people usually outsource trailers, don't they? Like they ask for
it
text.
depends. It depends. Yeah, like some game developers like to, especially if they got like a mechanic based game, you can just pay someone like I don't know 5 grand or something, depending on the person, and they'll make it for you. But our game is like really story based, so it needs like um, a lot of finesse, I guess, and it's a comedy thing. So it's hard to find like a comedy based like kind of trailer baker
Why is this guy
kind of
hiding
thing.
under a table?
He's not hiding. He's a table man. That's his
Pla-
job in the dungeon experience.
Planned release date.
Yeah,
Uh,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll be dropping a trailer. It'll be like episodic, like Telltale, but only 2 episodes. So it's like 2 parts. So we'll be
Oh,
like
okay.
releasing one part and um, then going on to release the second. So the first part is kind of like almost like a not an introduction to the story, but yeah, it's like half the story it would be in 2 parts. That would make sense.
And mud crab isn't an Elder Scrolls thing. You're allowed to just say mud crab.
Yes, we're allowed to say just mud crab. Fortunately, they can't can't just get us.
Yeah, that's I've seen a lot of indie games that have that kind of simpler 3D style, but I think this might be my favorite I've seen so far.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely we try to do something a little bit different to like the regular kind of like yeah low resolution kind of stuff.
It's nice, it's colorful, it's angular, and it doesn't look like it was just done that way to be cheaper or anything. It actually looks consistent with what the game should be.
Yeah, it did end up being well, we were trying to do something that obviously it's like not realistic that costs millions of dollars. But
Right.
then yeah, it definitely ended up being slightly more work than initially we we uh we intended. Like all game projects normally happens.
How
You
the hell
set out the game actually was supposed to be like a 1 year project, but it ended up extending a bit further.
how the hell do you balance this with the Seinfeld game?
Well, the Seinfeld game was is just a pitch at the moment.
It's just kind
So
of on the back burner until the right forces of power say that everything's all right.
yeah, pretty much. Like I was umming and erring about the pitch for ages. Like I probably had the idea for the pitch maybe a year and a half ago, and I just never committed to it. And then me and Ivan spoke again. Like he had some free time, and we were just like, why don't we just make the pitch and
Hmm.
see what happens? Like if the game Seinfeld game did if we did get the green light, what I would do would be working. I would hire a studio, like hire some people. So I would hire like a programmer, and I would hire an artist as well that I know who's really good, and
Hmm.
probably basically yeah, like I'd work on it. Maybe try to work like the equivalent of 3 days or something a week while working on the other stuff. It would be hard, but like it would be an opportunity that I wouldn't want to pass up.
Yeah, but do they really have a reason to say no? I mean, aside from them being boomers that are scared about how video games work, because what would be the downside to them saying? What would be the upside to them saying no to your pitch?
Yeah, I mean,
Nothing.
like, yeah, we've definitely thought about that. It's just like I imagine there may be like all sorts of green yellow tape that we're just not aware of. Like maybe there was some agreement that they would never ever make Seinfeld content again. Like maybe the actors, like if they want to use their likeness, like if we were to use like Julia Dreyfus or like Jason Alexander or Wayne Knight, like they have something in their contract that they have to automatically be paid this much for something.
Oh,
Like I'm sure there's like all sorts of like stuff, but also who knows like what kind of contracts that they have and how
that's
much Warner
that's
Brothers actually owns it. You know,
mm,
that's just like pure like speculation of like why they would say no, just because yeah, like some of the actors might not be keen for it to happen, just because like yeah, it costs too much money or something like that.
yeah. It's
But you
that's
don't
just
know that, so that's why we pitched it.
those are some good points you brought up. I remember reading this Game of Thrones comic that they weren't allowed to use the likeness of any of the actors in it, so everybody looked completely different, and it was just wrong, in my opinion. And you have that Square Enix game for the Avengers that's coming out. None of the Avengers look, Iron Man doesn't look like Dowie Jr., Thor doesn't look like
Yeah.
himself, no one else does. It just feels wrong.
Yeah, it looks. I think it wasn't only just wrong. It's just like the direction that they went with the characters looks so weird.
Well, with
I think they had probably had.
Square Enix, I haven't looked too much into that game. I remember seeing footage of the Captain America gameplay, and it looked really fun in my opinion. If they can
Yeah,
hold the torch to the Spider-Man game that came out recently, I will be
yeah,
knocked on my ass because that was the best fucking superhero game I've ever played in my life. Is that Spider-Man game? Oh my god, it was so
yeah. It
goddamn
was
good.
that good.
Yeah, you played it?
No, I haven't actually. I used to be a huge Spider-Man fan. Like, when I was a kid, I had like the famous PlayStation one. That's like when you could go on
Oh, that.
skyscrapers and stuff. Like
Oh,
that
yeah, yeah,
original one
yeah.
that you could buy. That was like so fun, and
You know they
that guy
changed
actually ended
the.
up making an indie game. And
He did. Oh, the
yeah,
guy who made the swinging.
yeah, the guy who
Yeah,
invented the swinging mechanics,
yeah.
and
Energy Hook. It was terrible.
I didn't play it, but I backed it on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I would have backed it if I saw it too. But oh man,
I like it.
I remember seeing footage of it, and I was just like, oh man, I could just tell. But
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
yeah, it is unfortunate. They got it perfect in the new one though. They built on what he made, and I'm sure he's a nice guy, but it's just one of those Mighty Number Nine stories.
Yeah, it's a bit of a, I actually tried to contact him to work on it. Like when I was like starting out, I was like, oh, I could do concept art for you, like blah blah blah. I made like some fan art for it for Energy Hook,
Hmm.
like some artwork, and then I mentioned like how much my rates were, and then I never got a reply.
That's
And like even back then, my rates were like disgustingly low, like because I was just like a didn't know anything, know any better. It was like 150 for a character.
Mhm.
um, which like I would charge more like for a character like 500 to 1,000 or something like that now. But
Really? Wow. I mean, you still
that's
have.
yeah, it's more like general rates. Like um, if you're doing a character design for someone, like you're not just painting a nice artwork, you're designing it for them and stuff. Or like if you do Magic the Gathering cards, for example, their rate is 800 USD
You've you've
for a
done
card. Oh, sorry.
you've done
No,
Magic
I
the
haven't
Gathering.
done it. I haven't done it. I used to want to do it, but I have a lot of friends that do that stuff. So like, yeah, they 800 USD. But depending on how popular, if you're like a really popular artist, they have like a Brad Rigney or something. I think they get like 2 grand, 3 grand or something like that.
That's
But you know,
crazy.
depends. Some artists will spend like a week on it, while some artists can do it in a day. You know, so it
Yeah.
like really varies.
And when you have just the sheer amount of cards that are in Magic the Gathering, I can't imagine all the different artists that you have to be in contact with, making sure they're staying on top of it or semi-consistent with the lore. As for me
Yeah.
personally, I've always been more of a Hearthstone player, just because it's simple enough
Mhm.
for my primate brain to understand.
Yeah, I definitely seen. I've played Hearthstone. I really had fun until one of my friends convinced me not to play it when they showed me like statistically like it's hard to get good at it. Right? It's like more just a fun dopamine hit.
It's
But that can be like argued.
the problem is, at least in my unprofessional opinion, the problem is it's one of those games that's dominated by a meta, like way too much, where only one or two builds is relevant for any amount of time, and I hate that. You go and play Dark Souls 2, and if you look at the player versus player in Dark Souls 2, there is a bunch of different builds. There isn't one or two builds that's dominating the whole game. But whenever you get high enough in ranked Hearthstone, it's always whatever flavor of the month, overpowered deck there is that they haven't patched yet. And I think that's why a lot of people
Mm.
gravitate towards the arena where it's kind of randomized what cards you get.
Oh yeah, that reminds me of even what I was about to say Star Trek, StarCraft. When I used to play it, not competitively, but I used to play it a lot, and each race would have its own build that you had to like adhere to, and you had to adhere to like certain building rates. So you'd have to like drill practicing like put 2 barracks down, put one invest in gas, and you had to do it at the exact time. Otherwise, you've lost the game like straight away.
Hmm. That's one thing.
And it's like,
Exactly. It forces you to play a certain way, and I've never really liked that too much. I like when I can play the same game as someone else and we both get to like the same results in different ways. I don't like knowing in the back of my mind that I'm just doing the same thing thousands of other people are doing. I want to bring my own flavor to this game.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty much. But yeah, some people are just really good at optimizing it, and they do find those like crazy like
Yeah.
builds and shit like for Dota, and even any game. Like I was playing Divinity recently, and like I was just looking up people's like crazy builds for like characters, and they're like really hit hard compared to like my shitty build that I just randomly guessed, and then I changed it to their like spec, and it's like suddenly the game is really easy.
That's another thing is you can, if someone's stuck, it's fine to do that. But I always try and kind of have some sort of, blissful ignorance when it comes to that. I like to just ignore whatever's on the internet and come up with my own builds in such a way. Because I know I can look
Yeah.
up the best build and I guess just use that. How viable is a mage build going to be in Seinfeld Adventure, though, if you want to reveal that?
Look, if you want to be specking like an ice build for like a lane, I think that's probably going to be your best way to go. But if you're going for like a fire build, it's like doesn't really mesh with it too much. Like I think Kramer would be more of like a necromancer kind of character.
More than likely.
Um,
Should have made a turn-based RPG with it instead. I want you to repurpose these assets into every genre. You get a beat 'em up Seinfeld, you get the turn-based Seinfeld, and you get the point-and-click Seinfeld.
there's a dating Seinfeld already, so that I don't have to
There,
do that.
there is.
Yeah, there's a dating Seinfeld game which you can actually play. I think it's like really simple. I think I don't
And
want to say
that's
it's really simple. I don't know. I've never played it, but
and that's just
yeah,
a
they
fan game. No good graces from Netflix or anything.
yeah, it is a fan game. There's actually another pixel pointed click adventure as well.
Really?
Seinfeld game. Yeah, you can look it up if you like. Um,
So,
and there's also yeah, so there's a couple that I was a part. There is a article out there that I can't remember what it was. I think it was for Destructoid that I was a part of, which he like found all the Seinfeld games. He like went through like all like the weird fan stuff that's been made for it, which was a pretty cool article. Like he talked to like Seinfeld 2000 and a few other people.
oh, I'm looking at footage from 3 years ago, but I can tell it's your game. And
Yeah, there's a couple of them that look different. Like the art's different to the art now. The backgrounds are pretty much the same, but the characters probably look a bit different.
yeah, that's the thing is whenever you work on one project for too long, this is what the guy who made Fez was saying is he was working on Fez for like what, 6 years? And while he was working on
Yeah,
it, he got better at art naturally, so he had to go back and redo all of the old things again.
yeah, pretty much. And but the problem is that your old art is on the internet forever. So like a lot of games had that problem. Indie games, which when they post screenshots really early and then they completely change the art, especially Kickstarters. Like
People can
Thimbleweed
share those
Park
old
is an
ones.
example. He's the guy who made Monkey Island and stuff, and
Oh, right, right.
they made a Kickstarter for Thimbleweed Park, and they had some like really, really early work where it's just like looks like Maniac Mansion, like the original. So it was like pretty standard art. But then they hired a new artist who like really bumped up the quality. And if you compare it, like it's much better. But journalists keep using like the first Google image search stuff, like from the old Kickstarter from like yeah,
Oh my
three,
God.
4 years ago, and they were just getting so annoyed that journalists kept using these old images to advertise the game.
Right. Yeah, and that's part of the thing with early access that I think is interesting about first impressions is it's kind of different from what you're saying, but when you first release a game, that surprise factor, like the first week that your game is out, is huge. But when you release a game in early access and people are seeing every single step along the way, it's nice to be able to play it earlier, but you see it in this almost primordial, like primate state where you can't. You're more of a participant than a consumer because you're talking to the devs. You're saying, "Hey, let's both get this to a finished place." And there's not as much surprise, but there is a joy in being able to see every single step as it releases.
Yeah, totally. It's a really interesting process. Like, I find it fascinating devs who've gone the early access route, and it's like really helped them along, and um, it makes the game like even way better. Especially if you're making a mechanic-based game, like Noita is a good example of a recent game that's like done really well on early access. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't. What's it called?
Noita, so it's Noita. So it's like a roguelike, and you play like a wizard, and you're basically going down, down, down like these depths, and you have like different wands that have different effects that you can combine and all that kind of stuff. It's like real strategy kind of thing, and it's the big hook to it is that all the pixels have physics, so it's kind of like
Oh, risky.
Worms Armageddon kind of thing.
Yeah, I had this on
Like
my
you can
wish list.
blow up experiments. Yeah, the developer's like really cool as well. Like I was at GDC and he showed the game at Day of the Devs, and he was just really funny. Like he he got like the whole crowd to like shout. They loved his game, so got his mum on Skype. Like it's pretty funny. It was good.
Maybe I'll try and get him on. That
Yeah,
looks.
he might
It
be
does look
keen.
fun though.
Yeah, I haven't played it myself, but my girlfriend's really into it. It looks awesome.
I had a. I've been playing the fuck out of Hades. You know what Hades is?
No, I haven't heard of it.
It's by the same guys who made Bastion, Transistor, Super
Oh
Giant
yeah, yeah,
Games.
yeah, yeah. It's like a
It's a roguelike.
it's like the yeah, yeah, and it has like multiple cast members, right? Like you have like a party.
Oh no, that's
Or is that a
that's
different game?
that's Pyre. They've also made
Oh,
that.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good game too. But Hades, it's early access, but oh my god, it might be my favorite indie game I've ever played. There is so much dialogue when you play it. So there's like 9 different gods you can pray to get power ups, and each boss you fight has dialogue for whichever god you're worshiping. And
Yeah.
let's say you worship Ares and you lose to the first boss, then you come back and you choose Poseidon instead. I would not be surprised if the boss said, "Oh, you're gonna try Poseidon instead of Ares this time." Well, you're still not gonna win. I'm like, how many fucking books of dialogue did you jam into this game? Because they knew people were gonna be replaying it over and over, so they just put all this stuff in it. It's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, I actually find that a huge problem with those kind of games where they just repeat the same dialogue over and over again and you want to like blow your head off.
Yeah,
Like, it's expensive to do it, but it probably is worth it. For
it's
like
the
even
worst
you just
too.
saying that then and you like
Yeah.
you talk about it. I played a RTS like revival game, which is kind of basically was like Warcraft 2, but an indie game. And every time you move the character, it spits out his like line. But he just there was only 3 lines, so like whenever you were like clicking on the character, moving them, it was like every single time you clicked, he would say the line. I'm pretty sure in like the new games like StarCraft, like they say a line for every like 6 clicks or something like that.
Mhm.
It's just like infuriating because it was just like, yes, my sire, yes, yes, I going, and you're like, no, please stop.
Uh, I remember when Diablo 3 had a anniversary event, they released like a Diablo pet that could follow you, a miniature Diablo, and he would roar every single time you attack something, and the forums exploded with like, "Oh, this pet needs a slap on the wrist because he doesn't shut the hell up." They updated the game a day later, and that thing didn't make a peep afterwards. They didn't even like program it to just talk less. It just didn't make a sound at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. I always find it fascinating when like something like that will go throughout the whole dev process and like no one really notices. And like I totally sympathize because like there's a bunch of things I put in games that I didn't think were annoying, and then I would get like heaps of comments pointing it out, like why they hate it and stuff.
Yeah.
Or even like, but sometimes people will even like for the back to the Seinfeld thing, I got a lot of emails, people telling me that Jerry's left-handed. Um,
Oh wow.
and in the episode in the trailer, he's holding the mic in his right hand. But the thing is, just because he's left-handed doesn't mean he doesn't hold it in his right hand. And if you just do a Google search of him doing stand-up, he's holding the mic in his right hand.
Yeah, that's
And
not really a dominant hand thing. Microphone holding.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And the person even sent me an interview, and they sent me a photo of him signing a signature for a fan. But he didn't send me a photo of him doing stand up. Like, he was just clearly holding it in his right hand. A lot of people did that actually. It was quite funny. Like, people criticized us. I mean, these are the only negative things. Like 99% of it was nice that people criticized us on. They criticized us on like being too brutal about the show. They reckon that
Oh yeah,
we were being making fun of the show, and we were, and that's like part of the. At least we thought it was like a part of the show. Like they make fun of each other all the time.
yeah. It wasn't it
And
wasn't overly malicious or anything. You were just
no,
it wasn't
Jake's.
overly It wasn't coming out of a place of spite or anything. You were just talking about how they dump a bunch of beautiful women all the time in the show.
Yeah, yeah. And heaps of people were saying that they're like, how can you call it a game about nothing? The show was more than just about nothing. And like they were just like it was about friendship and like blah blah blah. And I was like, what are you we clearly joking about the pitch episode. Like that's like the joke. Like and it's funny because like when I first posted the game, the trailer, the top comment of every Reddit post was, "So it's a game about nothing." So I was like, okay, this is
Good.
clearly something that people just, it's like a call out line that people would like. So it's like, all right, I'm just going to use that as like the tagline for it. And people criticize us for it, but it's like the tiniest amount of people that care about it
Yeah.
or anything.
Yeah, no, it's I can't imagine how ignorant you would have to be to Seinfeld culture to not recognize what that line means.
Yeah, yeah. There was a guy even that I tweeted at him the pitch, like a YouTube clip of it, and he said like, "What has this got to do with anything?" I'm like, "All right, I'm not gonna argue with you." Um, have you ever considered making games before?
Me? Yeah, there's especially like, if I'm playing a platformer I like, or if I'm playing uh if I'm playing Shovel Knight, I'm like, man, these levels are so well crafted. I wish I could kind of just make my own sort of platformer and use physics from different games that I like and put them together into one thing.
Well, if you like platformers, you could even like even if you don't want to take it seriously, if you wanted to do it just like as a hobby, platformers are probably one of the most like well documented things to make if you wanted to make a platformer. Like if you get Unity or Game Maker, like you could like I bet you could get a platformer up and running in a day with all the tutorials out there
Oh, wow.
if you wanted to.
I'm sure it would be the best platformer ever made. If I
You
got
could
enough.
be a millionaire right now and you wouldn't have to guilt trip people to be on your podcast anymore. You could they would be asking you to be on your podcast.
If someone skipped ahead in this podcast, they'd be like, "Wow, Jacob's being a dick."
Yeah.
They don't see me making the joke first. Just,
Yeah. Well,
you know,
he's really ripping into him.
yeah.
Really taken it out of context.
You ever play the Fancy Pants Adventures? It's kind of an old Flash game, but I had the guy who made that on, and that has some of the most fun physics I feel I've played in any platformer, where it has momentum. You can go down a slope and like do a trick off of it. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
going so
I
fast
have,
that you can't tell what's going on. It's a good middle ground.
yeah, that's cool. A lot of those Flash games are really fascinating as well. Like that whole culture of Flash games. Uh,
Yeah.
they used to make apparently so much money from it back in the day, Flash games, for like
Wow.
3 month projects and stuff. I have a few friends that were like in that Flash era, and yeah, they were telling me like, man, the current indie game sucks, man. Like, used to make a game in like 3 months and would get like 60 grand or 70 grand or something,
Wow.
and and now we have to make a game for 3 years and then like maybe make that much. Like,
Damn.
um, but yeah,
Yeah,
it
no,
depends
because
on the project.
yeah, I miss it. It's not as prevalent anymore. And when
No,
GameStop bought Congregate, there's like a lot of games that got shivved by the algorithm on there. Like Fancy Pants 2 has maybe 130 plays, where the one before it had like thousands. And it's just the new algorithm, new corporate overlords. You don't have that same
when did GameStop buy Congregate? Was that
year,
recently?
years ago, maybe like 2011, something
Oh,
like
right,
that.
right. Yeah. Yeah, Paradigm, my game is actually on Congregate. I need to check if that's done anything on
Oh, it
there.
is.
They have like a game platform, kind of like Steam as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like a bunch of companies tried to do their own platforms like Epic and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I think Epic is probably though the only real competitor for Steam at the moment,
Yeah,
but that could be
Epic
argued.
Epic has been decently kind to me. They've had some good free releases. They got World War Z, among other things. I understand the frustration people have where you have exclusives that are changing to Epic at the last second, but
Yeah.
outside of that, it's just been another platform I use to get free games when they're available.
Yeah, totally. I think the controversy is really interesting, and yeah, I definitely understand why people get frustrated as well. But it's hard to say like how many people are actually like really bitter about it. Like it seems like most people are like, oh yeah, it's just another platform that I get it, and then it's just the really vocal people who are just like, it's an evil company, blah blah blah. But yeah, who knows? I think it probably still has a lot. It's definitely the most potential that's been for a long while, and for game developers, it's really good.
For
But
Epic Games.
yeah, like if you get the deals and stuff like that, in terms of like they give you more percentage profit, like it's in the interest of it definitely makes it better for game developers in terms of them making more money in a way that's like if you put your game on Steam, they take 30%, while Epic takes 18%, I believe.
Because they want to compete. They want to put some
Yeah, they want to keep it. Yeah, for sure.
they put
Yeah,
some fire under Steam's belly.
yeah. So it's like in our capitalistic world, you don't want a monopoly, and it makes sense for something to compete. So you get it's in it, and it is in the best benefit of the customers, which is what's fascinating about like people really hating Epic. It's like you need that competition so that they Steam will get better. Like,
Hmm.
but there's all sorts of nuances of it, and I'm sure if one of your listeners might be like, "Fuck you, Jacob," like you shill.
That's going to be the exact comment someone leaves just because you said that.
The top comment, yes. No one, they're just gonna read me teasing you, and then they're gonna read that comment, and I'm gonna be forever known as the worst developer just because of your podcasts. I should have never come on.
Yeah, to the dozens of people who watch this, that comment is just a joke. So, oh man, fucking the quarantine's got my sleep cycle all fucked up. You know what time I went to sleep?
What time?
10:30 a.m. I woke up at 5.
AM.
Yeah, I
What are
stayed
you
up.
doing, man?
I went to 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. is when I slept.
You gotta stay up all night and reset your clock, man. I used to do that when I was younger. I can't do that anymore. It's definitely not definitely not viable, and if I want to have friends and and hang out with my girlfriend.
Oh
I
yeah, no,
definitely used to do that all the time.
yeah, having
I actually kind of liked it.
obligations.
But yeah, obligations. I mean, ISO especially, you don't need to leave the house most of the time. So it's definitely, I imagine there's all sorts of people who have fallen back into their bad habits of staying up all night.
Hmm.
It's just too easy to do it.
All of my friends on Discord will stay up and will fall off one at a time. One person goes to bed at 1 a.m., the next at 4 a.m., and then it's just me and one other guy until like 7 a.m. And it's like, we gotta go to bed. And he's like, yeah, yeah, we do.
God, God, I don't miss that lifestyle at all. I mean, I do miss it a little bit because of the like nostalgia of it, but fuck me, it was so bad. Waking up at like midday or like later, like 2 o'clock, and just feeling like garbage. Having like breakfast, like a lunch at like 6 o'clock or something.
Hmm. I mean,
So weird.
it must. I mean, it must be nice if you have if someone's working from home or if they have a girlfriend. It can naturally it can help you. It can help anchor you into those good habits again. But me personally, that's not an issue. so So I'm just all over the
Yeah.
place right now. I'm on the complete reverse spectrum of what my sleep cycle should be.
Gotta change it up, man. Gotta get back in the game. Once this ISO is over, you're gonna be a new man. You're gonna start a motivational podcast instead.
Yeah, I gotta start. I have Ring Fit Adventure. I can start working out again and go into bed at a decent time or something. something different than whatever the hell I'm doing because I've been playing a lot more Hades instead of like uploading videos. I should be probably writing more scripts and working on that instead.
Get more productive, my friend. You just gotta. I'm gonna give you some motivational advice. You just gotta set some schedule, some time where you only have to do it for an hour a day,
Hmm.
and then that will give you kind of the momentum to keep on going. That's basically what the Seinfeld thing was. Was just every day after work, I'd spend like 2 hours on it, kind of thing, and
Hmm.
then get that out. Occasionally, I'll take a day off from work to just work on it. I'm lucky enough that I can do that, but
Hmm.
you know, get in there, get in the right headspace.
Yeah.
And that's the end of my motivational speech.
That was it was a good motivational speech. I mean, that's part of it is building momentum, right? So you might not want to edit that video, or you might not want to work on the Seinfeld game that day. But when you have the program opened in front of you and you start doing it,
Yeah,
if you start moving a couple of things around, it becomes easier to keep doing.
yeah, totally. And then you just get a video of people working out and Joe Rogan just talking over it, and you know,
Oh man, you read my. I think everybody watches Joe Rogan and has it in the back of their mind. I don't
yeah,
have.
Joe Rogan's definitely a character. He's publicly said that he hates like I don't think he likes the video that someone made of him. Like there's like a video of him on YouTube of him like like you gotta do the grind like blah 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 like someone just made of it, and he's like, man, I hate those things. Like
It's
even though
fun.
he's into motivational stuff, but yeah, he hates. I don't think he likes those like videos and stuff.
It's funny. It's you get a weird glimpse into that celebrity culture with him because he'll be like because he'll just have an honest to God conversation with someone on his podcast and then people will twist it all sorts of ways. Like when he had
Yeah,
Bernie Sanders on his podcast, he had all sorts of people like digging up what he said and it became this really gross like dirt flinging thing instead of just him talking. And he said that
yeah,
I'm done with that. I mean, imagine like, people who all they do is they read the celebrity magazines to stay caught up. They're gonna think that he's a fucking psychopath. They're not gonna. They don't slow down to listen to just genuine people.
yeah, yeah. It's people always make fun of me for like talking about it sometimes, like because yes, he's like stereotypically like yeah, you see him in the tabloids like. Oh fuck that Joe Rogan guy! Like he said this. It's like, did you just read a headline from like 2 years ago or something? Like,
Yeah,
um, but and it's like yeah, typical classic like 20 something white guy liking it. But he is just having conversations with people and he says heaps of stupid shit as well. Like so much stupid shit sometimes, especially when he's like talking about a subject that I know about and he's just like saying it completely wrong. And I'm like, how many other things does he talk about is wrong? But it's you're just listening to people having conversations, like interesting people, and like you never take it as like gospel. I mean, that's how I see it. It's like you're like you said, like a glimpse into celebrity life.
yeah,
Uh, and if you're talking for like 3 hours, like 5 times a week, recorded, like of course you're gonna say some stupid shit. Like
yeah,
if you record anyone like for that amount of time, they're going to say some inflammatory things or they're going to say like just misquoting or that's why he's constantly on his podcast going like I'm a dumbass. Like I say dumb shit all the time just to the people don't
yeah.
think
Just
shit
a
at him.
disclaimer. It's like you
Yeah.
can't say I ruined your life because I admitted that I was dumb on my podcast. So follow my advice at your own peril.
Yeah, totally.
You ever see the game River City Girls? Reminds me of your art style.
Yeah, I've seen it like pop up on my Twitter like a bunch of times. It seems really good. Yeah, the art is fucking sick. The pixel artists, like the animations on it are like ridiculously good. Like those are real animators. Like, well, Ivan's a real animator. I'm not a real animator. I animate and I animated a whole game, but like I did
But
things
you,
like
but
cheap
you,
ways and
but
like
you're still not a. So I'm not a real animator. I mean, I animate, and I've been an animator on games, but I'm not an animator. What the fuck
yeah,
are
no,
you?
like I I'm a jack of all trades. That's what I am. No, like yeah, it's like there's people who like animate like for a living and who know like timing and how to like do certain
Oh
things.
yeah,
Like I just know how to like cheese it a little bit
you
here and
use
there, like to make it look like I can animate in some places, but like
you use smear
like
smear effects a lot.
yeah, I definitely
Well, those
do
are
smear frame.
those are not cheap. Those are pretty cool actually. If you ever there's a game called One Step from Eden, and the
Yeah,
animation in that game they use smear all the time, and it looks great. It makes everything have a
yeah.
more satisfying plop to it, kind of.
Oh yeah, it feels so good. But like when you first learn it, like you overuse it so much. Like when I first learned it, I was just like constantly using it. It's so fun. It's so fun because it's so easy to do it in a way. Like because you draw the two frames and then you just make a smear frame connecting
Yeah,
them basically and just making it look like it doesn't even matter like if it looks that great that smear frame. It just looks good when it's like animated.
yeah,
But
yeah. That's something I never thought about, is because I've never animated. So you might say, "Oh man, on this own, this still looks kind of," but then you see it in action, and you only see it for like a quarter of a second, and you're like, "Huh, that actually kind of works pretty well."
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of people who like people who don't know animation that will like pause frames for on like animated projects.
Mhm.
People do it for The Simpsons because they just find like really funny like in betweens and stuff. But some people legitimately like will to criticize like new projects, like they'll just like pause the frame or something like that, and it's like, look how bad this drawing is. It's like, well, it shows for 0.01 seconds. Like it's like doesn't have to look good. It just needs to look good in emotion. That's like the
Mhm.
point of it.
Well, it's kind of both, right? So yeah, Dragon Ball Super had some really bad in between frames that happened all the time, but I'm sure you could find like even the best animation that's like held to a pedestal, and it will have ugly frames. Like
Oh yeah, for
that's
sure.
just something that happens a lot.
Mm, totally.
And
It's
what those animators, and the thing is, until those animators like animate Elaine pushing someone and saying "get out," they aren't really animators themselves.
yeah, they're just like total trash. Like I don't even know why they would claim that they could do any art at all.
Did you see that person who put the soup Nazi scene on YouTube and they edited out the laugh track? It's actually a really tense and scary scene to watch because it moves away from this cheesy comedy vibe to this Breaking Bad style tense personal moment.
Yeah, because they're just like pausing for laughter, so they're just like staring at each other and stuff. Yeah, that's one of the funny things, like because people will like get Big Bang Theory and like remove the laugh track, and it's like not funny at all, right? Like
Mhm.
it's just like a bunch of references of them not saying anything really. But
That's it. Laugh
but
tracks tell you when to laugh. They really do.
yeah,
They instruct you.
but even if you remove the laugh track in Seinfeld, like it's it kind of ruins it because it's designed to have the laugh track. So when it has like the awkward pauses, it makes it feel like not as funny. I mean, other than it being ironically funny.
Mhm.
So like I kind of always hate it when people criticize the show by removing the laugh track. Even though it's fucking funny, like I still find like the Big Bang Theory thing, the famous clip, which is like when they're playing ping pong and they're just like referencing like Lord of the Rings and stuff, and like these aren't jokes. Like, why is this? Why
These
is
aren't
this supposed
jokes.
to be fun?
Just
Yeah, they're just saying nerdy things and
it's just
like,
the Lord of the Rings exists. That's the whole scene.
yeah, which is fascinating because most of its audience aren't nerds. Like, it's like people laughing at nerds. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, it's like a stereotype kind of. It might not be a kind laugh. It might be more laughing at than laughing with nerds.
Yeah.
But so our laugh tracks are never. So how does a laugh track even work? Like, is it ever actually real? Is there ever actually like a studio of people behind the set and they're watching this being filmed, or is it always just some recording they throw in there?
For a lot of the sitcoms, they were live audiences. So Seinfeld was a live audience.
Hmm.
Um, I think maybe some. Actually, I don't know. I think most of them are live audiences. Actually, there's maybe some like lower budget shows that have fake laugh tracks in it. especially like YouTuber sitcoms have come out recently. Uh, I don't know. I'm sure they don't have a live audience for those terrible YouTube sitcoms. There was some YouTuber that made a Friends sitcom, and it was just a Friends copy but with YouTubers. It was really bad. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Someone asked us if we would put a laugh track in our game, but we just joked that we would just put it as an option if you wanted to. That would just trigger every time there's a joke.
That's perfect, actually. Just turn it on and off in the options.
Yeah, we would leave it off by default for sure. I reckon. I think it would be shit having the laugh track in the game. I think it would get grating, but if it was like an option just for a laugh, it'd probably be good.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good thing to include. Let's see. But so every single episode of Seinfeld, that's all genuine. And what if like there's a scene where they're outside and they're watching the guy get mugged in the final episode? There's no laugh track there. Is there?
Yeah, I don't know how they do that actually. They probably have they probably like yeah, probably record it or something like that, or maybe they do have an audience outside, but I doubt it. It would probably for those scenarios. But they do have it on they're like on lots in Hollywood, so they could have like an audience watching, but I imagine it would be too weird from that distance or whatever.
You ever see those episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm where they bring Seinfeld back?
Yeah, like the reunion episode.
Yeah, then they have like the new modern look for Jerry's apartment. It's so weird. So
Yeah.
it's fun. It's a glimpse into what because they said they never want to do a reunion and stuff like that. But so Curb Your Enthusiasm, that was an opportunity to see into an alternate reality where he said
It could
yes.
happen. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, totally.
I really don't like Curb Your Enthusiasm as much. It's more improv. Some of it's funny, but it definitely doesn't have the same polished feel that Seinfeld has.
Yeah, it has different appeals. Like I actually do like a lot of improv kind of comedy stuff. I know like
Mhm.
for some people, yeah, it's like frustrating because they know it's like they're aware it's improv. Like it kind of breaks immersion sometimes. Like when people just like a lot of improv comedy is like repeating words or like um no, I'm not gonna say that. That sounds like I'm like breaking it down. I don't know much about improv comedy, but like a lot of like Rick and Morty style, like they're just like yeah,
Oh yeah, Rick and
have
Morty
that kind of
is
stuff.
yeah, Rick and Morty definitely
Um,
does it a lot.
uh, but yeah, like one thing I wanted out of what I would find interesting out of this if they actually did a new Curb episode with us pitching the game. I think that would be like one scenario, like the reunion episode that it could work.
Oh my
Um,
God, that'd be great if like you couldn't make the game, but they got you and Ivan on an episode to like pitch the game, and they thought it was weird or something.
Yeah, yeah, like it would be so good to write a whole episode where and like we got to make the game kind of like or the episode like we could make like more scenarios where we're like pitching it to them and
Yeah,
like they could portray us as like really obnoxious fans or something like that, like trying to
yeah.
get like Larry's attention and like coming to his house and stuff or doing like just make it like really hyperbolic and stuff of us like harassing him and um I think that would be really good, but that's just like
And
total.
yeah, it's the pie in the sky thing, but that would be awesome. What would be awesome is if that happened, people would almost surely keep pressing them for the game to be fully made.
Yeah, yeah. If it got to that point, yeah, maybe there would be some demand. But
So, do you have any? Well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Did you have any closing statements, remarks? You wanted to plug the dungeon game again, or what's up?
I think you should just admire my beauty for everyone who's listening. You just look at
Hmm.
my Twitter profile at jacobjanerka.com and just enjoy it. You don't even have to follow the Seinfeld project. You just need to look at my face in pixel form and
I'm
uh,
looking right now.
and then just and they you just really need to enjoy your day. That's all I ask for you. Like
So just look at the
and
profile
really,
picture and enjoy our day.
yeah, yeah, and maybe like listen to like your favorite song so you can imbue that into my face. So when you see my face later on, a mugshot for going to jail for um,
For stealing
buying
us.
seinfeldgame.com, uh, you will
Well,
be able to
yeah.
associate good memories and make a petition to get me out.
Well, I wonder what penitentiary they would put you in for making the Seinfeld game. Some
Just
like
ship me
middle of
out to the
no
US.
some middle of nowhere Alcatraz kind of, don't let him do this guy, don't let who the hell knows what he's gonna do. All right, well,
I will just be with all the other like people who infringe on the Nintendo copyright. Like they're all in just like one like hyper secure facility. Like, what did you do? Copied Mario 64 in the Unreal Engine.
and they like have some
Oh fuck, man, that's dark.
and they have like some secret underground facility in that prison where they're all making this giant awesome fan collaboration that infringes on so many copyrights. It's
Some like evil lad just for like copyright infringement.
that's another. I accidentally gave a good premise for another point and click game if you ever wanted to make one where people who get copyright struck get sent to a prison and you have to secretly make a game.
Oh man, I can just imagine like that being like I wonder if they could do anything if you actually went to an island or like you lived at some like you'd be like what's his name? Julian Assange and you're like living in like the Swedish like
Emissary.
I can't remember. Is it the Swedish embassy
I
or
think I think
like
so.
Snowden living in Russia? So you
Yeah,
like it living in Russia, just like making like a Seinfeld fan game and they can't prosecute you. Like it's political
that's
asylum,
that's
so you
so
can make
that's
the
such
game.
a it's such a weird rule. It's like he goes inside the emissary and people are like, ah, dang, he escaped. It's just, ah, man, oh man,
Yeah, but yeah, it was really nice talking to you, man. Thanks for inviting me
oh no,
onto your podcast.
and I appreciate you helping your
Appreciate
local small YouTuber for sure.
it. Yeah, yeah, no worries, man. Like those things are the lifeblood of that kind of stuff. And I remember when I was like making Paradigm like really small and like emailing like journalists being like, I'm a nobody, but can you please write an article about this thing? And
Yeah,
it's like,
getting that first step in. You just send it to everyone and hope someone says yes, and eventually they do.
yeah, yeah, totally.
All
But
right. All right. Well, have a good one, man.
so,
Thanks again. Appreciate you.
yeah, yeah, no worries, man. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Bye.